Since 1981, policies based on Laffer's infamous curve have been tried. The results have been unimpressive. Let's take a moment to examine why. At the federal level, there have been three major attempts to apply the Laffer curve since 1980. Reagan gave a series of tax cuts, the deficit grew. Then in 1991, a recession followed. George W. Bush also tried tax cuts to the rich. The deficit ballooned, so did the housing bubble, leading to the crash of 2008. Trump followed with more tax cuts to the rich. The deficit ballooned again. Just when a few observers were predicting another economic crash, COVID brought the entire economy to a stop. In contrast, in 1991 to 2000, the Clinton administration gave us the tax on the rich, a slight increase on the taxes for the top 1%. During this era, the deficit shrank and even reached a surplus. Contrary to the promoters of the Laffer curve, the economy remained strong and the deficit was eliminated. We might have predicted this given history. The strongest growth era in the history of America occurred while the marginal tax on the rich was at its highest level ever. Laffer never even anticipated this as possible. So, why was Laffer wrong? We can identify a few reasons. First, those trying to apply the Laffer curve have consistently assumed we're on the right side of the curve, the region of declining revenues. They had no empirical evidence for this, they just assumed. But historical evidence indicates that, in terms of taxes on the rich, we're actually on the left side of the curve, the region of increasing revenues. To reduce the deficit and spur economic growth, we actually needed to increase taxes on the rich. Consider this graph taken from a pro Laffer Curve website. Can you identify the willful error? They drew the curve through an outlier, but ignored the general trend. The actual trend of the graph is closer to the line we insert here. It's not anywhere close to the outlier at the top. This indicates that most countries could increase revenues by raising corporate taxes above 35%. Initially, the Laffer curve may feel intuitive to those in the middle class. You can't make money without charging, but if you charge too much, nobody is buying. But think more about how expenses such as taxes may impact you. They may merely impact your status. If they get higher, they may impact your comforts. You no longer have money left to pay for deeply desired comforts. The worst case scenario would be excessive fees taken so much that you no longer had money for necessities. At this level, the cost consequences, for example, homelessness, would be greater than the revenues. For those in poverty, all taxes and fees lead to costly consequences. Also, the cost of extracting fees from the poor will likely be greater than the value of the fees. When it comes to the poor, the Laffer curve only goes positive when the taxes are negative. For the very wealthy, the Laffer curve will lean to the high end. Even a rather high tax won't impact their comforts or luxuries and may even have minimal impact on their investments. In contrast, if taxes on the very wealthy are too low, they may do more harm with their money than good. They might create investment bubbles. They might buy up real estate, driving up the cost of housing. They might use their extra wealth to buy favors from politicians, favors which will be a cost to others. There exist multiple ways in which a concentration of excess wealth can be harmful. Put this all together to recognize that the Laffer curve must be indexed to income. For the impoverished, the peak will be to the low side, even in the negative range. The peak will move closer to the middle for the middle class, and for the very wealthy, the peak of the Laffer curve will actually drift towards 100%. Yes, if Laffer had thought to index his curve to income level, he would have correctly predicted that we should eliminate taxes on the poor, lower taxes on the middle, but raise taxes on the rich. That would give us the peak results.